Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to completely shatter some old, deeply ingrained myths about how your brain works. And even better, we're going to reveal exactly how practices like meditation can fundamentally rewire us right from the inside out. Now, as we go through this, you'll notice the hashtag 1109 tag up in the top left of your screen and the information for Dr. Gangadhar Physiotherapy and Rehabilitation Center in the top right. They'll be with us throughout our entire journey today.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've got a really fascinating roadmap ahead. We'll start with number 1, the limbic system myth. Then 2, mapping brain emotion. 3, the memory circuit. And finally, 4, meditation's deep brain impact.
Section 1, the limbic system myth. Let's talk about why a concept you probably learned in high school biology is actually totally scientifically outmoded.
So let's trace exactly how this myth evolved, because it's quite a story. Way back in 1937, a scientist named James Papez was studying rabies. Now, rabies causes intense, unpredictable aggression, right? Well, Papez noticed the disease severely damaged the hippocampus, so he theorized that a specific circuit in the brain controlled our emotional expression. By 1952, Paul MacLean expanded on this idea, threw the amygdala and septum into the mix, and modeled a single limbic system. And honestly, that model stuck for decades. It spread like wildfire in textbooks. But fast forward to 2013, researcher Edmund Rolls publishes comprehensive evidence completely debunking it. It turns out, early animal studies, where specific parts of the brain were just surgically removed, led us to a massively oversimplified model. The truth is, there is absolutely no single limbic system. We actually have completely separate systems for our emotions and our memories.
Section 2, mapping brain emotion. So if there isn't just one big limbic system running the whole show, where do our feelings actually live? To understand this, think of your brain almost like a giant computer running two entirely different processors. On one side, you have the emotion system. This network relies heavily on the orbitofrontal cortex and the amygdala. Its main gig? Making incredibly fast value-based calculations. It's constantly deciding, hey, is this stimulus a reward or is it a punisher? On the completely opposite side, you have the memory system. This processor uses the hippocampus and the Papez circuit, which we'll actually dig into in a minute. The memory system relies on episodic data feedback. It's all about associating spatial locations and objects together. So you can see, they operate on completely different principles.
And this brilliantly illustrates the dense, almost overwhelmingly complex neuroanatomy of that emotion processor. What you're looking at are the pathways leading straight to the orbital frontal cortex. In humans and other primates, this area is highly developed. It's pulling in visual, olfactory, and auditory stimuli, and its main function is to calculate subjective pleasantness. Think about it, when you take a bite of your absolute favorite food and get that rush of pleasure, or when you see a beautiful face. It is this exact, specific system computing that value in real time.
Breaking that down a bit further, this emotional system acts like an instantaneous judge. It computes whether an input is a reward or a punisher, and crucially, this is a real game changer, it passes that decision directly to your output regions. That means it drives your autonomic responses, like immediately making your heart race without needing to wait around for sluggish feedback from your peripheral body. Because this system is so incredibly advanced in primates, it allows for rapid, one-trial learning. In fact, in us humans, the orbitofrontal cortex has largely overshadowed the amygdala when it comes to learning complex social and emotional behaviors. It is the literal emotional powerhouse of your brain.
Section 3, the memory circuit. Now that we've got a handle on the emotion processor, let's shift gears and look at the brain's other major network.
Let's move to and see how this builds dynamically. Historically, thanks to those early rabies studies we talked about, the Papez circuit was deeply misunderstood as an emotional center. But here is its true function. It is a loop specifically designed for episodic and spatial memory. Information flow kicks off at step 1, the hippocampus. Then it travels down a bundle of nerve fibers called the fornix at step 2. It hits the mammillary bodies at step 3 and moves right along to the anterior thalamic nucleus at step 4, before looping all the way back around. It's essentially an auto-association network. It takes what you saw and where you saw it and tightly binds them together into a single memory you can recall later.
Now, why does this distinction actually matter to you and me? Well, when this specific circuit breaks down, it doesn't cause emotional chaos. It causes profound memory loss. Take Alzheimer's disease, for example. That's characterized by the degeneration of the hippocampus, right inside this exact circuit. Or alcoholic Korsakoff syndrome, which destroys the mammillary bodies and completely robs a person of the ability to form new memories.
Even conditions like transient global amnesia and semantic dementia all trace back to physical damage in these exact anatomical pathways. So it's a memory circuit, plain and simple. No emotions involved.
Section 4, Meditation's Deep Brain Impact. We've spent a lot of time mapping out clinical neuroanatomy, but hey, knowledge without application is only half the battle, right? Let's pivot to something really inspiring.
Recently, researchers at Mount Sinai conducted a truly groundbreaking study. You see, traditionally, it's incredibly hard to see what's happening deep down in those emotion and memory centers using standard scalp monitors. It's just too fuzzy. So these researchers, they completely bypassed the scalp. They worked with epilepsy patients who already had intracranial EEG devices surgically implanted deep inside their brains. This gave the scientists an unprecedented, crystal-clear, real-time look directly into the amygdala and the hippocampus.
And the clinical intervention they introduced was surprisingly simple. Just 10 minutes. That's it. They literally just asked these patients to participate in a brief 10-minute audio-guided session of loving-kindness meditation. If you haven't heard of it, it's just a practice focused on generating strong feelings of well-being for yourself and for others.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that 7.43 metric. You might be wondering, do I need to be a monk to see brain changes? No way. These patients were total novice meditators. They didn't have years of monastic training under their belts. Yet, after just 10 minutes, they self-reported an average depth of meditation of 7.43 out of 10. That is absolutely massive because it proves that engaging your deep brain isn't some highly exclusive, impossible skill. It's an immediate, easily accessible tool.
And the data coming from those deep brain electrodes, it was absolutely stunning. The researchers saw immediate structural changes in the strength and duration of beta and gamma waves across both the emotional and memory centers. So the crucial point is captured perfectly by the study's senior author, Dr. Ignacio Saez. He noted, these kinds of brain waves are affected in mood disorders, so the possibility of being able to willfully control these through meditation is pretty amazing. Think about that. Just by sitting quietly and guiding your thoughts, you literally have the power to willfully alter the deepest electrochemical waves in your own brain.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We've traveled from outdated 1930s biology myths deep into the actual, separated neural networks of human reward and memory, all the way to the surgical front lines of modern neuroscience. The science is incredibly clear. Your brain is a highly structured, distinctly separated but entirely adaptable machine. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative thought. If a mere 10 minutes of guided focus can structurally change the deepest brainwaves associated with your mood and your memory, how will you choose to rewire your mind today?
Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. If you found this deep dive into the brain as fascinating as I did, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Go ahead and press that bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming explainers. And a very special reminder to visit Dr. Gangadhar Physiotherapy and Rehabilitation Center for any physical therapy or emergency pain relief treatments you might need. You can check out the link right there on screen. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll see you next time.